Welcome to Betting Weekly WTA, the women's tennis betting podcast, brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. I'm Rory Jiwani. With me is Nigel Seeley to look ahead to the final slam of 2025. It's the US Open at Flushing Meadows in New York. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favourite podcast provider. And make sure to follow us on social media. The handle is at Because We Win. And if you like what you hear on our shows, sign up for the newsletter, get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. Today, we're looking at the outright odds, the futures odds for the tournament. And tomorrow, we'll be giving you our best first round match picks. Nigel, you had the draw live. You did a live show with Mitch and Tim yesterday. What were your initial thoughts there? Just remind us of those. And have they sort of changed at all in the, 12 hours since?
Good morning to you, Rory. Yeah, looking forward to this US Open final major. I always like the US Open. I love going to New York. I love the city. I love the arena. I think it's a real buzzy type New York, and it's good to end the season here in New York. Usually a tournament brings some shocks. Come on to the trends in a little while. The first thing after the draw show, I was glad that the draw come through, because we were sitting trying to watch a live stream of the draw like Wimbledon, and it didn't materialise. It was just computer generated, and it appeared. It was quite difficult actually, because in the live draw it's come upon, it literally just popped up without us having to see who played people. So your first reaction is obviously a little bit clouded. My initial reaction straight away was Aryna Sabalenka's got a very, very tough draw. And my second reaction to that was that Iga Swiatek's got it fairly comfortably to reach through to the semi-finals. And I thought straight away that Iga Swiatek would start the US Open as a clear favourite. We'll come on to the outright odds in a minute. That was my first reaction. So yes, I mean, we're both men's and the women's tournaments, and more so the men's and the women's, but obviously the top two dominate a huge percentage of the betting market, and it's dominated by the top two. And usually you look at whoever's got the easier bracket or the easier route through, and that's reflected in the odds. And certainly my first reaction was the top half of the draw is tougher than the bottom half of the draw, and Q1 is the toughest quarter of them all, and that is where you'll find the defending champion Aryna Sabalenka.
It certainly does look top heavy, this draw. And Q1 to me looks absolutely brutal. Let's assess the conditions and previous winners. Last year, the service hold percentage at Flushing Meadows was 67%. So that's the faster side of median. It was actually marginally higher than the Australian Open. Weather-wise, pretty warm, high 20s Celsius, certainly in the first week, so that's around 80 Fahrenheit. A bit of rain due Monday and Thursday, but nothing too drastic. As you said, Nigel, Aryna Sabalenka, the defending champion, after her victory over Jessica Pegula 12 months ago. She was the runner-up in 2023 to Coco Gauff. In 2022, Iga Swiatek defeated Ons Jabeur in the final. In 2021, of course, Emma Raducanu coming from nowhere through the qualifiers. She beat Leylah Fernandez in the championship game. Naomi Osaka, she defeated Victoria Azarenka in 2020 to win her second US Open. Her first was in 2018 over Serena Williams. Between those two Osaka triumphs, you had Bianca Andreescu winning in 2019 with Serena Williams again the beaten finalist. Gauff and Swiatek among recent winners suggest it's a fairly level playing field. Lakehold is the court supplier. We've seen very fast Har-Tru courts in Washington and Cincinnati recently, but these are going to be slower. Any trends we should be interested in here, Nigel?
Well, I'll come on to the trends in 1 second. You touched on the weather. I mean, I've been very fortunate to be at this tournament for this will be my fourth year that I've been there in succession. And this time around, it seems a lot cooler than the last time. So I know it's in the 80s, low 80s, high 70s, which is like 25, 26. But that's quite cool for New York at this time of year. And the humidity has dropped a little bit. So it's not as hot as it has been over the years, which is a good thing for the players after coming back some brutal couple of weeks in Cincinnati and obviously in Canada. And the second week, when you go into the latter part of the first week, the second week, there is a bit of bad weather forecast in terms of storms and stuff like that. But you expect that in New York. You're always going to get a little bit of storms. You're always going to get some humidity. But it is cooler than in recent years. Okay, the trends. I mean, I've gone back through the last 20 winners to find out if there is any sort of trends on this one. The first thing that's quite relevant to me is that in the last 10 years of the US Open, only one player has won it twice in that period. So there's been nine first-time winners in that 10 years. So it's a tournament that very rarely people win it a couple of times in a short period of time. So there's been 9 new winners in the 10 years. The only person who's won it twice in the last 10-year period is Naomi Osaka, who's coming into this in a bit of form as well. She's a contender this week. Very rarely do people win it back to back. That is another thing that you've got to remember. You've got to, only some of the greats have done it. You've got to go back to 2013, 2014 for the last person who won it back to back, and that was Serena Williams. So that's the kind of task that Sabalenka has got on her hands here. And it's much fairer to say in 2013, 2014, Serena Williams was a much more dominant factor in the women's game that Sabalenka is today. So that's a bit of a problem if you're a Sabalenka bettor. If we go back through the history of the tournament, in the last 20 years, we've had 4 number 1 seeds win the tournament. Only 4 in 20 years have won it. And in number 2 seed, 3 have won it. That's the same number as unseeded players. There's been 3 unseeded players who've won this tournament in the last 20 years. Emma Raducanu, as you said, in 2021. Sloane Stephens in 2017, she was unseeded. And Kim Clijsters in 2009. There's only ever been one final in the last 20 years that's seen the number 1 and number 2 seed participate, which I found quite an interesting stat, really, when you think, the Williams sisters were dominant. And that was Williams against Azarenka in 2013. So if you're going to take a short price on Sabalenka and you've got Swiatek to meet in the final, the history doesn't do you. It's not a great thing for you to have that. So they are the trends. I mean, last year we had one unseeded player in the semi-finalists. Karolina Muchova was in the semi-finalists. And it's a tournament that seeded players obviously do well. There's 32 seeds in it, but not as dominant as you would expect. The number 1 seed, only 4. Number 2 seed, the same as the underseeded players. And at the end of the year, it is a tournament where people come in quite tired after a long, long season. You get a lot of withdrawals at the early part, especially when the heat last year was very exceptionally hot. You got a lot of withdrawals. Players aren't as fit as they are in the mid-season, and you do get more shocks than more Grand Slams. I mean, Wimbledon and French Open are the ones that the favourite bettors usually get a lot. The opening one of the year, Australian Open, and the closing one, the US Open, is when there are more shocks. So if anybody thinks this is a certainty for Sabalenka and for Iga Swiatek just to turn up and rock through to the final, the trends are saying otherwise.
So if we do look at the quarterfinals according to the top 8 seeds, Sabalenka will play Jasmine Paolini. Jessica Pegula will meet Mira Andreeva. Madison Keys will face Coco Gauff. And in Q4, it will be a repeat of the Wimbledon final, Amanda Anisimova against Iga Swiatek. But the dangers, and there are plenty of them, especially in the top half, in Q1, this is insane. You've got Jelena Rybakina, Leylah Fernandez, Clara Tauson, Emma Raducanu, and Cincinnati semi-finalist Veronika Kudermetova, all in Q1. In Q2, big serving Ludmila Samsonova and Victoria Mboko, of course, came from nowhere to win in Montreal. They're in Q2. In Q3, the 2 standout names unseeded, I thought were Karolina Muchova, although, sorry, she's seeded 11. They're actually seeded, but they're outside the top 8. Karolina Muchova and Naomi Osaka. And then in Q4, Alina Svitolina and Anna Kalinskaya. I mean, just from that, Q1 looks very much the most difficult. And we can have a look at the odds because we do have quarter betting for this tournament. We can have a look at the odds for players to win that Q1. And some of the names I've just mentioned are in there. And I didn't mention Marketa Vondrausova, who, of course, former Wimbledon champion. I mean, Q1, Sabalenka even money, Rybakina $4, Raducanu $9, Paolini $10, which could look quite big, given she just reached the Cincinnati final. Vondrausova, $12, Towson, 14s, Leylah Fernandez, 18s, Elise Mertens, $20, Veronika Kudermetova, $28, and it's $33 bar those. Where do you start here, Nigel?
Well, I mean, you look at this quarter, and the first thing you've got to look at is you obviously got to look at the favourite, and you look at Aryna Sabalenka and think, even money with those names, it's a price that I wouldn't actually take. But I looked at the maths this morning on her route, and this is how Masarova, I think she's going to be about 1 to 100 to win that match, or 1 to 50. Second match, Kudermetova probably about 1 to Paolini Kudermetova probably about 1 to 33, 1 to 40, something like that. Then she'll play Leylah Fernandez if it goes to form, probably minus 750, minus 800. Towson, minus 550, minus $5. And then you've got Rybakina, if she goes there, probably minus 250, something like that. On the back of my ratings for these tennis players. If you work out the probability of her winning each match throughout the route, and that's with the most difficult route, I make her around about plus 122. To reach the semi-finals of this tournament. So even money with the built-in margin is probably what you would expect to see, but it's no value. But that is the most difficult route. Obviously, if they're one of those seeds go, then even money will be a price. So even though she's got a very, very difficult draw in terms of seeded players and dangerous floaters in the draw, her odds to actually win the quarter are probably about right. They're not far off. Elena Rybakina is someone who she's been on my radar for the last couple of weeks. I think her game is getting so much better. But she's never, ever got past the last 16. Never got to the last 16, sorry. She's only never got past the third round at the US Open in 6 attempts. And that's a worry for me. Does that suggest that she's always injured and she never comes in here with fitness? Obviously, this time around, she's had a lot of time off. So she might be at her best. And she did play well last time out, beating Sabalenka in Cincinnati. But that record is bad. Raducanu at 9. I mean, she's got to beat. She's got to beat Rybakina in round 3. Then she's probably going to run into Paolini and then Sabalenka. Well, if you did the treble on those 3 outcomes, you're going to get a much bigger price than 9 to 1 Raducanu. So she's no value. Paolini. I mean, she's just always surprises me that she can keep competing the way she does. I think she had that brilliant season last year, and she's backed it up with a decent season this year. Probably, I mean, I wouldn't be rushing to bet that. So where is the value? I mean, where is the value? I mean, Clara Towson has beaten Sabalenka before this season. She could give her a struggle in the 4th round if they get that far. You would expect her that, but she starts off in a tough match against Iga, and she runs into Mertens, who's in a bit of form as well. So even though it looks on paper that Sabalenka is opposable at even money, I just don't know where to go with it. And I don't think it's that much of a wrong price. I think where you look at Sabalenka's record this year, she's been so good, consistently reaching semi-finals, quarterfinals. Is when she goes up against the better players that she struggled. I know she's obviously lost against Anisimova at Wimbledon, but that was that, and she had struggles against Zygmunt. But she's always going deep in tournaments, semi-finals, quarterfinals, and then she just doesn't. Her conversion rate in finals isn't very good. But I don't know where the value is. I really couldn't tell you where the actual value is. But I can't see anyone in the right column of that draw going through. And even though Sabalenka is someone I want to fade, more so on the outright market, I just don't know where I want to go in this one.
Yeah, I thought this was too tough. Q1, to be perfectly honest. I thought Towson at $14 was interesting. My issue with Rybakina is it seems she struggles to put very good performances together. So, she beat Sabalenka really well in Cincinnati. And then, she looked good for a while against Swiatek. She was a breakup in the first set. And then the wheels pretty much fell off. And as you say, that record at Flushing Meadows is a big worry for Rybakina fans. And with Sabalenka, the other thing I noticed when she's won her 3 slams, the week before or the tournament before, she's reached the final of all 3. And she's won 2 of them. Obviously, Cincinnati, she didn't reach the final. So, in terms of sort of a trend for Sabalenka, that strikes me as a bit of a negative. She's having to do something that she hasn't done before. But as you say, the bigger trend against her is how few players have retained this title. So I'm with you. Sabalenka's a fade, but who to oppose her with in that quarter? Very hard to say. And she could reach the semis and go out in the semis. She could reach the final. But we know her conversion rate in finals isn't the best. So yeah, Q1.
Just when you say about that back-to-back titles, I mean, the only players who've won back-to-back titles are the greats: Serena Williams, Clijsters, Venus Williams, Steffi Graf, Monica Seles, Martina Navratilova, Chris Evert-Lloyd, Billie Jean King. That's some list. And is Sabalenka on that list yet? I'm not so sure.
So no bets in Q1.
No bet in Q1.
No bet at all in Q1. Let's have a look at Q2. Let's see if we can find something there. This is quite open. 3-1 the field. Mira Andreeva, the favourite, $3. Victoria Mboko, plus 450. Jessica Pegula, $5. Ludmila Samsonova, 7s. Belinda Bencic, 9s. Diana Yastremska, $12. Barbara Krejcikova, $14. Emma Navarro, $18. Yelena Ostapenko, 25s. And it's $33 bar those. This looks open. I suppose the one to watch, the player on everyone's radar after her success in Montreal here is Mboko. Can she perform in a slam? She was beaten by Hailey Baptiste at Wimbledon. US Open, what do we reckon to her chances? She's got a tough opener against Barbara Krejcikova as well.
Well, she was the one that I thought I would be betting in this quarter. When the draw come through, I thought this was an opportunity for her to go deep. But she's playing a very, very, a two-time Grand Slam champion in round one. And you're getting her at plus 450 to win a quarter with some of these names in it. I think it's really, really short price. I mean, just on the math, she's never a 4.5 shot to win it. She's going to be a talent. She's going to be a major champion. But the market is very, very strong on her. And at plus 450, I couldn't bet her. I mean, Mira Andreeva seems to be the forgotten girl of women's tennis. I mean, we had this conversation, I don't know, start of the year. She would be plus 150 to win this quarter. I know she's not in great form. Got beat by Kessler in Montreal. Got beat by Bencic in the quarterfinal of Wimbledon. I think it'd probably be her. This will be her type of service. I mean, she did well at one Indian Wells, one Dubai, which is similar to this. Obviously, got beat by Miami. It depends how quick it is. I think if it's very, very quick here, it won't suit Andreeva. But the slower it is, if it's a slower court, then she's got a great chance in this quarter. And I think as the tournament goes on, she'll have belief. I think the fact that Mbuko's come on, taking a bit of a limelight over from a young girl, helps Andreeva slightly here. So she's an interesting one. Jessica Pegula, absolutely fade for me. Big fade in this tournament, as well as Emma Navarro. I mean, Pegula looks like she's coming to the end of her career. Her performances have been lacklustre, to say the best about them. Got beat by Cocciaretta in the first round of Wimbledon when we were on her to win Wimbledon. First round at Washington to Fernandez. Got beat in Montreal by Savetseva. And then Magdalene in Cincinnati. That is not the form of someone who's going to get to the semi-finals of the US Open. She's, to me, I think her game is caught up with her. Looking further down the list, Krejcikova obviously opens up against Buku. Ostapenko, her condition is always a worry for me over a 2-week period. I wouldn't bet her. The one that I think perhaps is a bit of an interest, and I'll probably have a very small bet on her, half a point or something like that, is Ludmila Samsonova at 7-1. I like Samsonova. I think if her serve gets going, she's a formidable player. She did well in Wimbledon, reached the quarterfinals, got beat by Iga Swiatek, semi-finals in Berlin before that. Got beat by Osaka in Montreal in a long match, but had chances in that. Cincinnati didn't play at all well against Townsend, got beat in the second round. Got to the quarterfinal last week in Cleveland, got beat by Kirstea. But that's not bad. I mean, that's what people want to do. You don't want to peak. Look at that result and think to yourself, oh, she'll beat in the quarterfinal. That's an ideal prep for a major. Get to the quarterfinal, get some matches on your belt. She's got a pretty good record at the US Open. Last 16 last year, got beat by Iga Swiatek. Last 32 the year before got beat by Madison Keys. Last 16 in 2022 got beat by Tomljanovic. And really looking at her draw, she's got a fairly comfortable opening against Yuan. Then she'll play Bencic. I think, in the third round, probably Bencic. Then Jessica Pegula in round 4, if Pegula can get past Azarenka. Then I can see her getting the quarterfinals, and then it's a match-up against Andreeva or Mbuko. She'll be the outsider of that, but I don't think she'll be too worried. And then she'll just be one match away. I think at 7-1, she is the smidgen of value in that quarter. Mira Andreeva is a very interesting one at $3 because the market is really over-egging Mbuku. But Andreeva could turn out to be a stonking bet at $3. But I'm just going to have just a half a point on Samsonova at 7s.
Okay, I think I'm gonna have half a point on Krejcikova, just because she did okay in the last tournament. She did beat Aryna Svitolina, which I think is a good sign of where she's at. I think Svitolina is very consistent. So that was in Cincinnati, and for Krejcikova to beat her shows that she's in form. She was well beaten. She then got the better of Iva Jovic. She was well beaten by Paolini, but I think Krejcikova, we know she's had so many injury problems. I think she was looking after herself in that game. And Paolini's sort of opponent, it's going to be tough. It's long rallies. You're going to have to work really hard. I think she's been saving herself for New York. So I'm going to have, we know what she can do. I mean, even at Wimbledon, there were, you saw flashes of her best at Wimbledon. First set against Emma Navarro, she eventually lost the match. She looked brilliant. And, I think it's all still there. It's just her, her fitness. And she did this when she won Wimbledon last year. She'd had so much time off. She barely played. And then she turns up and wins Wimbledon. I think this is a player who, on her day, when she's fit, she's definitely a top 5, maybe even a top 3 player. She's won 2 slams. Obviously the fitness is the issue, but I think $14 is a big price for this quarter.
Well, she's a plus 180. She's a plus 180 chance to beat Mbuku in round 1, and that's a real disrespectful price for a 2-time major champion, a young girl playing her debut at the US Open. I think it's her debut, and having all the pressure on her. I mean, there's no pressure on Krejcikova. She's might thrive in the opportunity. I mean, if she beats Mbuku, she's suddenly a 4-1 shot to win the quarter. So, yeah, well worth a go.
So that's Q2, and yes, it is. Just checking, it is Mbuku's US Open debut. Yeah. There's going to be some pressure on her having won in Montreal. Let's move on to Q3, and this to me looked the weakest of the quarters. Coco Gauff heads the market at plus 250, Madison Keys plus 350, Naomi Osaka $4, and then it's much bigger prices the rest. Karolina Mukova and Linda Noskova $14, Daria Kazatkina, Marta Kostyuk, and Sorana Kirstia $20, Donna Vekic 25s, excuse me, Jessica Buzas Monero and Katerina Siniakova, Katie Bolter and Peyton Stearns all $28, and it's $33 bar those. Coco Gauff. I mean, if after winning the French Open, you'd have been quite surprised to see her at plus 250 for this tournament. For this quarter in this tournament. And you could say the same for Madison Keys after winning the Australian Open, but they're 2 players who are just out of form at the moment.
Well, I'd say Coco Gauff is more drastically out of form than Madison Keys, because Coco Gauff is a player that we all thought was challenging for the top spots in the world after winning the French Open. Beaten the first round in Berlin, beaten the first round at Wimbledon, Yastremska, beaten by in Mbuku 6-1, 6-4 on Montreal, losing in the quarterfinal in Cincinnati. And then obviously she's got a tough first round match as well against Tomljanovic here, who's done well in the US Open before. I think she's a couple of times she's been to the quarterfinals. So massive pressure. The serve is the issue. We all know about the serve. She's made changes, but she's only made the changes probably a little bit too late, really. She's going to come in and give it a free hit, but from a betting perspective, you wouldn't be betting her at plus 250, and you certainly wouldn't bet on the outright market. Where is there value in this draw? I mean, Madison Keys. I quite like Madison Keys. I think she's got a decent chance here. I think that her season form isn't as bad as you might think. She got to the semi-finals at Queen's Club, got beat by the eventual champion. Vondrousova beat her in Berlin. Obviously, at the time Vondrousova was flying. Sigmund beat her at Wimbledon, which looked a shock result, and then she should have beaten Sabalenka. Got beat by Towson in the quarterfinals in Montreal, and got beat by Rybakina in Cincinnati. She's been beaten by decent players, and she obviously got beat by Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals of the French Open, and the surface that isn't her specialised surface. And she probably should have won that match. Took the first set and I think she was a break up in the set number 2. So I think I think Keys is a lot better betting proposition than Gauff in this market. Naomi Osaka is coming into the best form she's played since she's probably won this tournament. But for her to do it over 2 weeks, questionable. Mukova, semi-finalist last year, unbelievable talent. One of the best players on the world if she's on her day. But too many injuries, too many problems with her. I bet her a couple of weeks ago. She was really disappointing in the way she played. Noskova not good enough. Kazatkina certainly not good enough. The rest of them, no chance. So, I mean, where do you go? I'd probably be leaning towards Madison Keys. Well, I would be leaning towards Madison Keys, but I'll come on to her in a bit later on. But I think Madison Keys would be the person I would take here.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those, like in horse racing, with a horse you follow off a cliff. It's Karolina Mukova for me. I think 14s is too big. I know she was beaten in Cincinnati when we were both on her. I thought in Montreal she should have beaten Madison Keys in Montreal. Cincinnati was obviously disappointing, but I just get the feeling, a bit like with Krejcikova, she's saving herself a bit, and she played the mixed doubles at the US Open, which to me suggests, if she had doubts over her fitness, she wouldn't have been playing that. I don't think, she should have been, saving herself for Flushing Meadows for the singles. I just think 14s is a huge price. As I say, she did play that mixed double, so I think, obviously you have to take it on trust with her fitness, and she's another player who's had so many injuries down the years. She reached the semi-finals last year, as you say, when she was unseeded. And I suppose there's a bit of pressure in that she does have a lot of points to defend, but it's a slam. I think Mukova can go deep here. I was interested in Osaka, but $4 is just a little bit short for me. Especially if she ends up playing Gauff in I think it'd be round 4. She'd play Gauff. I think Gauff, despite her poor form of late, I think she can certainly get past the first few rounds. I don't see her having too much trouble with Tomljanovic. And then it's probably Donna Vekic in round 2. That might be a bit tricky. But I think she can get going. And, she's had problems with her serve. It's not new, her having problems with her serve. It's just, it seems to come and go, these serving issues.
You wouldn't bet at that price, though, Rory.
I wouldn't bet.
You couldn't bet it.
No.
I mean, she should get through the first couple of rounds, but she's like 1 to 20 to get past a couple of rounds. But, I mean, the crowd will get her over the line in a lot of these matches. They'll get behind. And the other thing that's going to suit her is if it's slower. I mean, when she won it 2 years ago, the court was a lot slower than it was last year. And she needs it slower. The weather will suit her as well. But at pressure points, that serve is going to let her down. So she'll cakewalk through the first couple of rounds. But then when she's playing Osaka in round 4 or Madison Keys or Mukova in a quarterfinal, you wouldn't trust that serve.
Yeah, no, I agree there. And with Keys, I was so disappointed by her Wimbledon exit, and I remember that match against Vondrousova. I remember watching it, and she just did not look. She just wasn't playing well, and I still don't think she's playing particularly well. Certainly compared to how she was when she won the Australian Open. So for me, Keys is one to avoid at the moment. I'm going to have half a point on Mukova to win Q3. I think, yes, we all know about her issues, but that's why you're getting the price. And I think $14 is at least a couple of ticks too big. I think she should be single figures. So I'm happy to take the chance at 14s. So are you going to back Keys or not?
No,
It's just a lean.
I'm not going to. No, I'm just going to stick with my bet on Samsonova. I mean, I think a lot of these matches that a lot of these quarters obviously affect your outright bet. So the confidence that I'm in at the moment, I don't really want to be going all in on a player to win the quarter and to win the outright. So I'm just happy to just go tentative for this tournament at the moment. But I'll be having more on the match betting, Joe, when we do that.
Let's move down to Q4. Honestly, I don't think there's a bet here. I think Swiatek -137, and I think that's not the wrong price by any stretch. It's
that's
big
a bet.
Price is the rest.
That is
you
a
think
bet.
It's a bet.
I'm not going to bet it on it because what's the point of having 1 unit or 2 units? But if you're a big better, Iga Swiatek to win this quarter at -137 is the best bet of all the quarters that we've done mathematically. I mean, I did some numbers there, crunching some numbers. She plays Emilino Arango in round 1. She's 100 to 1 on to win that match. Arango famously lost the final 6-love against Emma Navarro, so I can see a double bagel coming there from Iga Swiatek. Lamins or Glosman, well, she's going to be 100 on there as well. Yeah. So that then she gets into the round of 13. Kalinskaya, she'll be about 14 on, 12, 14 on. Then she'll play Alexandrova. She'll be 10 on, 8 or 9 on, and then she'll play Anisimova in a repeat of the Wimbledon final. Well, I mean, that is if Anisimova gets that far. But in that match, Swiatek will be about 5 on, 2 to 9. Maybe 4 on. You work out the maths on that, it comes into about -$2. And that is the toughest route. It's all about whether Anisimova can get over that Wimbledon defeat if she meets her. And I know the crowd will be behind her, but I think that gives her more pressure. Svitolina, she's older than me and you. Kalinskaya, not for me. And it's not. I mean, look at it. I mean, who is going to beat Iga Swiatek in that quarter? Absolutely nobody. And I think that -137, if you're a big better, or you want to put in a parlay or something like that, Iga Swiatek will win this quarter. Breeze it.
Very, very confident there. I don't disagree with you. I mean,
I don't know who can beat her. Who can? The biggest rival is someone you beat 6-love in your last match. That's your biggest rival in the quarter. So how I mean, like, your next rival is someone who's been around for 17 years, perennial quarterfinalist, perennial last 16, always in the second week, but never into the business end. Someone I would have thought, I mean, I don't know the record of Iga Swiatek against Svitolina, but I would have thought it would be absolutely, I mean, it seems a match up in heaven.
Well, I remember Svitolina beating Swiatek at Wimbledon, but I think apart from that, I think Swiatek might have won every meeting.
I'm gonna have a look for that. I mean, but I just can't see anything. 4-1 Iga Swiatek leads 4-1.
Yeah. So that sole win was at Wimbledon. I thought Alexandrova, if she was on form, is someone who could give her a bit of a scare. Kalinskaya perhaps as well, but she's so inconsistent. But yeah, it's very, very hard to see anyone upsetting Swiatek in this quarter. Yeah, as you say, you've done the maths, and -137 isn't a bad price. It's not my sort of price. It's probably not your sort of price either, Nigel. But there are big bettors who don't mind a touch of minus money, and couldn't put you off Swiatek winning the quarter because, as looking at the list, there's not much there up against her.
Yeah.
Let's look at the proper outright market, and you're nearly right. Swiatek and Sabalenka sharing favouritism at +250. I agree, though. Based on the draw, Swiatek should be a clear favourite. Coco Gauff, $8. That looks too short to me. Jelena Rybakina, 13s. Mirandrova, $14. Anisimova, Pegula, Keys, Osaka, all $20. Victoria Mbuku is $24. Bencic, Svitolina Raducanu, $40. Paulini, 50s. Towson, $66. Diana Schneider, $70. Barbara Krejcikova, 75s. Ostapenko, $90. $100 bar those. So is Madison Keys going to be your pick in this one, Nigel?
I've got two. I'm going to go in the bottom half of the draw, obviously, yes. And my first pick is Iga Swiatek. I just think plus 250. The draw she's been given. I told you there. I'll make her $2 minus $2 to get to the semifinals. In the semifinals, she's going to beat either Keys, Osaka, Goff, Mukova, potentially those four players. She's going to be an overwhelming favourite to beat any of them. I think she's on an absolutely belting run at the moment. Won Wimbledon, won Cincinnati, had a poor clay court season. She's made changes to her game. She's the best player in the women's game at the moment by some distance. And I think plus 250 is the wrong price. I genuinely believe that she'll start favourite. I think that, when this show goes out and then people start betting before we start on Monday, I think she'll be the favourite to win the tournament. And then if she gets to the final and she plays Sabalenka or whoever she plays, that record that she has in a final of 6 major finals, 6 wins, she doesn't lose finals. Sabalenka's got a record of 6 finals, 3 wins, 3 losses. And I just feel that extra record she has and, the belief she has at this moment in time will see her through. So Iga Swiatek, I'm just going to have 2 points on Iga Swiatek at plus 250. And I'm going to play smaller. I'm only going to play small again. And I'm just going to have a half a point on Madison Keys outright at 20-1 because I think she is the person who will come through the third section. I didn't want to bet her in the third section because I knew I was going to be betting her on here. But I think the third quarter is the weakest quarter by a mile. Goff is a fade for everybody you speak to on this channel, in the newsletter and everything you do. Everybody's fading Goff. Don't trust her serve. Osaka, I just don't believe will go through it over 2 weeks. Mukova, I just think something could go wrong physically with her. Keys, I don't think she's playing as bad as you think. And then when she gets into the business end, Keys, she's got a 2-0 winning head-to-head record against Mukova. She's got a 3-1 winning head-to-head record against Osaka. And she's 3-3 with Goff. If we think Goff's a fade, Mukova and Osaka are the next likely people in that quarter. She's got a record against that. I would worry about Keys getting to that stage. I think she's more vulnerable to fall at round 3. She plays Kostyuk in round 3 or bowl to Kostyuk potentially. If she can get past that stage and she can get the crowd behind the momentum, obviously she's a very, very popular tennis player across America. I think she can go deep. So I think she can get the semi-final. So I'm hoping that we get a Keys v Swiatek semi-final, and then we got a finalist. That's my planning. So I think the top half is much more difficult. Q2, I'm going for a left field picking Samsonova. She's not even on the list. I think she's 150-1, so you might look at her as an outsider. And I think that statistically and the trends suggest that Sabalenka is a fade as well. So Keys, half a point. Swiatek, 2 points.
So that's Swiatek 2-point win, I assume, and Keys half point each way?
Nah, I was going to bet a win. So, because it's just like I'm hoping I'm betting that's the semi final and we get a big price in the final. I'm not going to bet any each way. I'm going to have I'm laying out 4 points. 3 points. Half a point on Samsonova to win her quarter. 2 points on Keys. 2 points on Swiatek to win it at 250, and half a point on Keys at 20-1.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the 2 players I mentioned in the quarter betting. I think Q2 and Q3 are the weakest, certainly. And I think Q3 is, the weakest of the quarters. So Mukova, I think 100-1 is a huge price. I know I've said it, about her injuries, but given what we know she can do, semi-finalist last year, I think that's massive. So half point each way on Mukova, and half point each way on Krejcikova, who's had a similar prep, shall we say, to Wimbledon last year, and could cause a few upsets. Obviously, she's got to get past Mbuku in round 1, but if she does that, she'll be a much lower price. And actually, Towson is really tempting at $66 in that Q1, but it's such a hard quarter.
Keys beat Mukova, didn't she? beginning of the month in Montreal.
Mukova should have won that, though. She had match points. She should definitely have won that. And I think if they met again, I'd fancy Mukova to exact revenge. Towson at $66. I'm not gonna press the button, but that is tempting me. But Q1 is really hard. It is best to avoid Q1, I think. That is
the best bet of the whole tournament.
Is
Swiatek to win Q4 at -137. If you want to get involved in that is the best, barring injury. We've obviously got the factor injury in. Barring injury, mathematically, that is the wrong price, and she will win Q4.
There you go. But we're not going to put it up because it's too short a price to put up. So that's our look at the outright markets. So we've looked at quarter betting and the tournament winner markets. Of course, just a reminder, each way betting with Bet Rivers, you get half of the odds on your player reaching the final. And so half of your stake goes on them reaching the final, top two, and then the other half goes on them to win the tournament. It's a great bet, the each way bet, especially when you're looking at halves and you want to pick someone in perhaps the easier half if you think they've got a better chance of reaching the final. So that's our look at Flushing Meadows Part 1. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at our best bets, our best match bets in the opening round. But Nigel, you've got some business with Sean to attend to on the men's side.
Yeah, we're doing the outright show on the men's today. We'll also be doing the best bets on the first round tomorrow, as well as myself and Sean will be in New York as well. Not at the same time. He'll be out there early part of the week and I'll be following him. And you'll be able to follow our ventures because we would have got a brand new camera, top of the range camera. I don't know how to use it, but we're trying to work it. I don't read manuals. I just press buttons and then see what happens. So, I'm going to try to work out how to use it, and hopefully we'll get some good shots while we're out in the Big Apple.
Yeah, good luck with the camera, Nigel. Hope it all goes well. And enjoy New York, but I'll see you before then. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll have a look at the round one match bets. Thanks for joining us. Remember, if you like what you see, sign up to the newsletter and the free Insider magazine. It's free to sign up at www.bettingweeklystudios.com. Again, thanks for joining us. Let us know what you think and who you think are going to win the quarters and who's going to win the US Open, the last slam of 2025. We'll be back tomorrow with the best match bets, and we'll see you again then.